Why Epic, the name itself?
Epic has one thing, and that I stay very clearly. If you're a business, if you are a professional, if you are a student, if you are a leader, if you are a brand, the very first place where you start is you start from within.
That's on your website as well.
Yeah,
The first line I could see was start from within. Tell me about it.
For example, I'll just give you an analogy. You go to a dentist, you say my tooth is paining, and suppose he just maybe wash your tooth and say okay fine, now you're fine. That doesn't eradicate the need of root canal, right? So dentists will always try to find a deeper problem hidden. Every problem that founders come with are only visible from the outside, and they never go inside to actually try to figure out the problem and work on that.
What is the 90-day sprint will look like for them working with Epic?
So my model, my thinking style is not dependent upon if you're a founder, you're a student, you're a leader, or whatever, right? It's basis your core mindset. And I have 3 values which I don't compromise on, non-negotiable. Your first value and mindset is in terms of openness.
Okay.
What I look at for people. Second is transparency. Third is mutual respect. A lot of companies, again, might expect you to behave in a certain way, right? You are following orders because it's part of a KPIs, right? And a lot of founders also whom I've worked with, and what I see is that they are not transparent with their own team. They will try to hold on to something.
One brand you think has nailed inside-out positioning?
Amul.
Really?
Yeah.
Like how can you say that?
I mean, how beautifully it has evolved, its communication, but its brand personality remains the same. I mean, which brand can do that?
Thank you so much, Jitin, for sitting down for this podcast. It's an absolute pleasure hosting you here with us. So, starting off about Epic, before that, I want to know about you. Who is Jitin Thapar, if you have to tell somebody who doesn't know?
All right, first of all, thank you for having me here, Suhani. I think if I have to describe about myself, I will first describe myself as a deep thinker.
Okay.
Somebody who has a lot of ideas, a lot of different perspectives, and who do not only have idea perspective, but who try to connect the dots between what is there in mind and what is in the reality.
Okay.
So that's who I am. And again, because of that, I also, one of my superpower, because I'll tell you why I'm saying this word superpower, is basically creating strategies which are more inside out. So yeah, that's Jitin for you.
Wow. And if like you've had like a good enough time of corporate experience working with Nikon, so and many famous brands honestly. So itna time corporate mein kaam karne ke baad, starting out something of your own, it's very risky. You must have a habit of being in the comfort zone of 9 to 5. How are you coming out of it, and how did Epic come to your life?
This decision of coming out on my own was not a single, distinctive movement.
Okay.
ऐसा नहीं था कि एकदम से I just realized that I want to work for myself. I think this was building on year by year, experience by experience along these 15 years. So as I said, I'm a deep thinker, so I was working and I've got the opportunity to work with a lot of big brands, a lot of well-known legacy brands also.
Yeah.
And all this while, along with doing my job, I was also thinking more deeply into various aspects of life. And then after 15 years, I thought that, this is the right time. And of course, there were some situations, personal situations, which actually prompted me to, now face my fear. And when I'm saying face my fear, was that, as you rightly said, that there was a comfort zone. So while I always thought of doing something meaningful, doing something of my own, the thought of leaving the comfort zone was very difficult. So after 15 years with the situations in my life, I thought of finally facing those fears. And that's when I decided to, take a break from corporate. Now, this does not mean that I started with Epic. Rather, Epic came to me as few experimentations. It came to me by connecting the pattern of the last 15 years that I have gained out of corporate and out of my own profession. And also this was the pattern which came to me in a sense that it was much more than just marketing concepts.
Okay.
So yeah, I think the story of Epic is as wonderful as maybe, somebody writing a movie or somebody writing a script. You just start writing it in a direction, and then when you look back, you say, okay, fine, every nuance, every pillar is actually creating a story of its own. So that's how Epic came to me.
Makes sense. You've mentioned that you have worked for 15 years in corporate, right?
Yeah.
And that is a very long time. What exactly did you do, and what are the things that you've learned there that you're incorporating in Epic?
So in corporate, I was in pure marketing.
Okay.
All right, from day one itself, after my campus placement, I got placed in marketing profiles, and all these 15 years, I worked in the area of marketing. Now, marketing is a very interesting concept. It's an interesting subject because it's a combination of your technical knowledge as well as your, interpersonal knowledge or psychology also. I mean, marketing involves a lot of consumer understanding, and eventually you are digging deeper into your consumer's mind. So when I'm saying consumer's mind, that's basically into a psychological part of a human tendency. So across these 15 years, I think one thing that I've learned and I'm proud of, and I use it till now, and I think I'll keep on using it, is how to connect patterns. Because we are observing that the way the current landscape is changing is it's very dynamic. Earlier on, we used to think every 10 years the technology changes, but it's not so right now, and especially now with AI coming, a lot of panic is there. So again, what I've realized out of this 15 years is the foundation always remains the same. And the depth always remains the same. And marketing taught me that when you are in trouble or when you don't know the answers, always go back to your first principle thinking mindset. First principle thinking mindset is converting all your problems to your fundamentals. So, and that's how I've evolved over these 15 years of marketing.
Wow, that's remarkable, and I can assure that the way you speak and the way you have elaborated on your experience, you are incorporating that very well into Epic. Why Epic? The name itself.
All right.
Yeah. Why did you come up with Epic, and what it actually defines for you?
Okay, so for I will definitely explain Epic in more
details,
but just to summarize it, Epic is not a very complex jargon. It's I think when I'll start explaining Epic, you will realize that it's so simple, it's so fundamental. But unfortunately, we are so impressed by complex terms, complexity, various words framing into something very intelligible. But we often lose focus of how simple life can be and how simplicity can give you answers which complexity cannot give you.
That makes sense.
So Epic has one thing to say and that I stay very clearly, very upfrontly, that for even if it's for even if you're a business, if you are a professional, if you are a student, if you are a leader, if you are a brand, the very first place where you start is you start from within. And that's one line, start from within.
That's on your website as well. The first line I could see was start from within. Tell me about it.
Yeah, so it's very powerful because what I've observed, from the last 1.5 years, I'm also been meeting a lot of founders. And you'll be amazed to hear that when some of the founders come to me with a problem, that's actually not a problem. That's a symptom.
Okay.
The problem is much deeper, right? So there, again, there's one thing is called as visible problem, and second is invisible problem. So when founders come to me, they discuss about the challenges. They are actually talking about a visible problem, which is a symptom, but the deeper problem is somewhere else.
It's rooted to somewhere else.
Yes. So when you go, for example, I'll just give you an analogy. You go to a dentist. You say my tooth is paining. And suppose he just maybe wash your teeth and tooth and say, okay, fine, now you're fine. That doesn't eradicate the need of root canal, right? So a dentist will always try to find a deeper problem hidden, which can basically be the solution can be a root canal, or maybe cleaning the teeth also can be a solution. So again, every problem that founders come with are only visible from the outside, and they never go inside to actually try to figure out the problem and work on that. So what my inside out theory start from within says that 99% of your problem will solve once you start from your inside. Be it business. For example, nowadays you can see a lot of with organic, let's suppose organic industry being having a boom. A lot of founders will say, okay, fine, this industry organic is in boom. ये अपने को profit देगा, so why don't we start something in organic? and then they'll start working on that, right? And that's also what I call it a borrowed strategy.
Okay.
So people think वो देखते हैं कि if this is working, LinkedIn is saying that okay, this founder has earned millions in this business, and then they try to research about that business, and then they'll try to see what is the CAGR growth, what is the revenue growth in that industry, and then they'll see promising number, and then they'll say okay, fine, I'll do that. Now what you are doing is you are actually starting external to internal, outside to inside. See, there is no problem till the time your internal matches are external. I know it's a mix of words what I'm saying right now, but oftenly
That does make sense, yeah.
It's often that what external conditions are might not be suitable for you.
Don't you think external conditions keeps changing with time and it might align with the internal aspects at some point?
I mean, your question has an answer. You said that external environments keep on changing.
Yeah.
That means if you align it with your internal alignment, I mean, outside in, then again, you'll have to keep on changing.
Yeah.
Right? And what it creates is confusion. You are actually running in multiple directions without reaching a destination.
Absolutely.
And that's the problem with, aligning yourself with external stimulus first. So that's what it is.
You claimed yourself as a very deep thinker.
Yeah.
When we speak of deep thinking, how is that being incorporated in EPICC?
Okay, so first let's understand what is deep thinking.
Yeah.
So deep thinking is when you actually do not try to find solution basis surface level information.
Okay.
You go deep. You say ना, हम बोलते हैं ना कि यार, if you have to find a solution, you have to go deep.
Yeah.
And a lot of people will say कि नहीं ठीक है, ये हमारे पास facts हैं, these are the facts and figures, उसमें से निकाल लेते हैं. So even when I was an employee, and you can have a lot of people who have worked with me will resonate with that if there is some problem, I always used to go much deeper into the problem. First, the root cause of the problem. Second, how I am solving or how I am capable of solving that problem. And then third, the solution. I don't start with solution first. So, and EPICC is also that. So the example of EPICC, why it is deep rooted, is because it does not start from surface level queries. It starts from deep level understanding of yourself. Once you understand yourself, then you are in a better position to answer a lot of questions, and not the other way around. Once you know that, okay, what's your strength, what's your weakness, what things are your default settings, or what's your frustration, or what you want to do in life, how you want to do in life, your values. Once you are sure about these, then you are actually in the right direction to solve a lot of questions for yourselves. So that's what I say deep analysis. And how EPICC solves it is because it asks you to first know yourself and then look at problems, not the other way around.
That does make sense, but do you think in a society or in the economy that we live in, a lot of people, do you think like 9 to 5 workers की भी अगर हम बात करें, किसी के पास इतना टाइम नहीं कि वो बैठकर इस चीज़ के बारे में सोचे कि मैं क्या हूँ, अपने understanding their own being is a task these days because people do not have time to sit with themselves, and sometimes even if they sit with themselves, their own thoughts rush to eat them up. So how can somebody walk through that?
That's a very good question.
Yeah.
And that's a very biggest challenge. And that's the reason why, and that's exactly the reason why EPICC exists.
Okay.
You are 9 to 5, you are 9 to 9, you are 9 to 12. Until and unless you don't have a direction, no time is enough, or no time is lengthy. And the reason why I created EPICC was because this only.
Okay.
Because when after my corporate, so reinvention is a black canvas in front of you.
Okay.
Black canvas, white canvas, what do you call that, right? Until unless you don't know the direction. And unfortunately, when I was looking for my own reinvention, I had a lot of advices, surface level advices, but there was no guidance for me how to reinvent myself. LinkedIn is full of good stories. It's full of successful stories. People are posting, okay, you do this, you do that. But some guidance need to be, neutral and natural. So before EPICC existed, I would have still been struggling to find my answers. And you're saying about 9 to 5, I think to find yourself is the biggest challenge, even if you're not in 9 to 5. When I quit corporate, I was in that struggle that how do I find my answers, right? And that's what created Epic. So with a direction, with you knowing a structure, you are more bound to find your answers, because now you know, okay, I found this part of it. Now the next obvious part is this. Now the next obvious part is this. It becomes a structure that you can easily work upon. But without direction, without that structure, even if you're unemployed, you won't be able to find answers.
Makes sense. But most importantly, if we talk about you trying to find your within, where did that spark come from? How did you know that you have to start searching for yourself?
Okay, so this actually came from my own journey of reinvention. It's not a textbook course that I've done, or any good code that I've picked. It's basis my journey, because as I've said, when I quit, when I was not working with corporate anymore. See, the biggest problem when you dissolve your earlier identity. So corporate gave me an identity, right? A brand, a position. So I was quite comfortable with that. But as soon as I left that part, now the world does not know me anymore as a brand, as a brand person or as a marketing head. Now I have to create my own identity, right? So when I started in this direction, I was very overwhelmed by a lot of options outside. As I've said, I started a production house, thinking because I have experience in Nikon, so let me just try a production house. That was one identity part of me, a founder of a production house company. But eventually I realized that I was not really enjoying it. And then going, okay, fine, I'm also good with marketing, so let me be a marketing consultant. And then I did that. So what I realized was I was creating multiple different identities and not sticking to one direction. And after a time, I came to a saturation point where I thought, जहाँ मुझे लगा कि मुझे पता ही नहीं मुझे करना क्या. That's when I stopped. And that's when I started questioning those questions which I have never questioned myself. Like, why do I exist? What's my strength and my weaknesses? What's that meaningful work that I can keep on doing months, years, and decades ahead, and I'll still, work on that direction. What meaning means to me? All these questions which I have never asked myself.
You dissected a lot of things.
Yes, I introspected a lot. And that's when I realized, and that's when I, found a direction. I found what I really wanted to do. That's when things start making sense for me. And that's how actually Epic came into existence also.
Makes sense. And when we went to your website and we searched around Epic as well, about you as well, we could see that your advisories around not consulting, not execution support, but there are founders you deal with. And founders को आदत होती है कि we hire people who get our work done with, उनको इतना वो कहते हैं कि it's a waste of time for them, because they say we can do a lot in that time. So how do you deal with people who walk in with a misconception of, that you will work for them and then you will get things executed for them?
Okay, very good question, because even after placing that on my website, I still get a lot of requests about founders asking me to help their team or maybe, to do them a marketing execution. See, when I said inside out Epic, it does not mean that I have created a concept for everybody else to study. Till the time I don't embody that, I don't, communicate about it, or I don't really talk about it. And the very first part is existence. Yeah. So when I did this to myself, I thought I came to the point that I realized that my thinking, my perspective, my direction, clarity giving is much more effective than me going and executing a campaign, right? And if I am not operating from my existence, I will never be able to do justice to your business, right? अगर आप business में हो, आपको perspective चाहिए, आपको idea चाहिए, आपको direction चाहिए, and then I become your partner. Then we do job which is much more fulfilling or much more interpretive, much more powerful than simply being executing. So when these founders come, I talk to them. Definitely, I entertain every request, but I try to make them clear that we often think that execution is important. So I'm not saying execution is not important, but execution in the right direction is important, right? And often than not with founders, it happens that they have a big team, they have a big execution team, but the decision making becomes a challenge for them. And आजकल का चैलेंज ये नहीं है कि आप एग्जीक्यूट नहीं कर सकते, आजकल का चैलेंज ये है कि आप डिसीजन नहीं ले सकते, because there is so much of information, there is so much of everything around you that you become very indecisive. So my role there is to be a second brain. And now how this second brain operates is, this second brain is not part of your system. So मैं आपको biased answers नहीं दूंगा. आपकी टीम नॉर्मली क्या रहता है फाउंडर्स या कॉर्पोरेट में, एक हायरार्की, एक अनसेड हायरार्की है. आप चाहे बोलो कि वी ऑपरेट इन नॉट इन अ हायरार्किकल टर्म, बट लॉट ऑफ टाइम टीम विल आंसर यू बेसिस द बायसनेस दे हैव फॉर द बिजनेस, क्योंकि वो बिजनेस के अंदर बैठे हुए हैं. How I operate is I bring a perspective which is outside the business. Now, how it helps is because when a founder is having a lot of questions around his business, those questions are within his ecosystem. वो ना बाहर क्या ecosystem समझता नहीं है, क्योंकि वो दिन रात एक ही काम कर रहा है अपने business को लेके. I bring that external perspective to him. So I don't give him answers. I basically help him to ask the right questions. Because once you are able to address those right questions, you are actually solving the right problems. And that's my role as an advisor is for you. So, I mean, that's how it is.
So, for example, if a founder or some company itself comes to you, clear out these two things. Who exactly you work with? Is it specifically for founders, or there is a more broader perspective to it? And if somebody who comes to you today, what is the 90-day sprint will look like for them working with EPICC?
Okay, so what kind of founders do I work with?
Specifically, like if you specifically work with founders, or is it like a broader perspective?
All right, so my model, my thinking style is not dependent upon if you're a founder, you're a student, you're a leader, or whatever, right? It's basis your core mindset. And I have 3 values which I don't compromise on, non-negotiable. Your first value and mindset is in terms of openness.
Okay.
What I look at for people. Second is transparency. Third is mutual respect. So how I break it is, if someone is open enough to hear my advice, I'll be more than happy to work with them. Be it a company, be it a CXO. I work with few of CXO level people also, and they are running companies. They are not running startup. They are running companies. So again, they are open to hear your advice. They are open to discuss their problems, and they are open to accept me as a second brain. Actions they will take, or decisions they will take, but what I'm doing is bringing clarity to those decisions. Second is mutual respect. I am not a service provider. I am your partner in thinking. I'm your partner in perspective. And trust me, if you have checked LinkedIn, you might have gone through some post wherein people have appreciated the kind of questions that I ask, the kind of perspective that I change.
Absolutely. Yeah.
And that's what my key strength is. And the third point is transparency.
Okay.
I can only be effective if you are being transparent to me.
Okay.
अगर आप प्रॉब्लम को छुपा रहे हो या आप शर्म से बता नहीं पा रहे, then I might not be able to go deeper into you. या फिर you are sugarcoating yourself to me. आप मुझे अपना बेस्ट वर्जन दिखा रहे हो, बट आप मेरे को अपना वीकनेस दिखा ही नहीं रहे या डिस्कस नहीं कर रहे, then I might not be able to give you a proper solution or proper perspective.
The 3 pillars that you've just mentioned,
core values,
core values for you as a human and as a advisor for the companies or the founders you work with. Have you are these coming from somewhere it was not appreciated? Like people were not open to you, or people were not transparent to you? Because I feel that as a founder, there is a lot of buttering up they do to themselves. They try to butter themselves up. They try to tell themselves कि सब सही चल रहा है, जबकि there is something wrong, right? So where does these core values come from?
I think very strong questions. See, these 3 values are non-negotiable because I see a lot of people not living with these values.
Okay.
And for good amount of time, even I was not living these values.
Okay.
Right? Because when you are in corporate, you are asked to perform in a separate way. You have to. A lot of companies again might expect you to behave in a certain way, right? You are following orders because it's part of a KPIs, right? And a lot of companies also, and a lot of founders also whom I've worked with, what I see is that they are not transparent with their own team. They will try to hold on to something. And ironically, these are also the same pillars which might be stopping your growth, which might be increasing the iteration rate of a company, which might be the reason of you as a leader becoming so uncertain that it shows. It shows in your decision, it shows in the way you talk to your people, and it shows in the way company is going forward.
Okay.
So that's the core, 3 pillars that I have adopted for myself.
So when we speak of leadership, tell us about this कि जब leaders नए बनते हैं, जब उनका पहली बार leadership role में होता है, you have yourself being a leader, you have directed a lot of people in terms of the direction as well, whilst you were in corporate. Where is something they lack visibility, and what's the biggest trap being a leader that people are not aware of being the first time leaders themselves?
Okay, so one trap, I would say that a lot of new leaders or people who just got promoted, the trap is that they think that they need to prove from day one. The need of proving themselves. And often more than not, in this race of proving, they don't find their selves. So philosophical लगेगा, but if you look at it as once you are in that race of proving yourself, in the race of establishing you as a leader in front of people, you are doing a lot of external efforts than versus the internal efforts you need to do. And this shows clearly. A lot of new so second gap and second gap is that as a new leader, you try to imitate the leadership style of someone whom you inspire, who inspires you. Now, why is this a trap? Because every leadership style is different, right? Every leadership, the way every leader operate is very different. The moment you try to imitate their style, you are actually killing your own self, your own, existence, your own, the reason why your values, the way you operate. So that's the second trap. And the third, the most common trap is that you, in the name of visibility, you try to become something you are really not. You try to impress people, you try to, you might try to...
You lose your authenticity.
Yes, you lose your authenticity because you're trying to prove that you are the most active voice in the room and you will start saying anything. So these things is something which somebody who is just, promoted to being a new leader, they fall into this trap. And there's only one anecdote. And that anecdote is again, you have to start from within. Take your time. Nobody is asking you to be a leader from day one. Try to find out your existence. And basis on that existence, you create the rest of pillars. And slowly and steadily, when your authentic self will come in front of people, they will only appreciate it. So, by the end of it, I would say that the first thing that you should need to do once you get promoted is you should be clear what kind of leader do you want to become for the people who are dependent upon your leadership style.
You have emphasized majorly on that there needs to be a structured growth, a structured influence rather than being performative. Where is somebody or a particular leader gets performative, and that's when that you have experienced, things go downhill.
Okay. So being performative and this is the era of visibility, right? It's a visibility economy. And a lot of leaders are now coming active on LinkedIn. They are trying to have their voice. Now, being performative is basically you are trying to have too many opinions without one opinion sticking to what you really believe in. And a lot of leaders, consciously or subconsciously want to portray that part of their style, right? Which is not natural to them. And the difference between you being a good leader is not when you is basically the difference when you start considering your outside visibility as your inside core. It should be opposite way. Look at some great leaders, Elon Musk, Steve Jobs. If they would have focused on LinkedIn and where everyone is saying about empathy, they wouldn't have been the leader they are right now, right? They are known not for their empathetic styles. They are known because they have a very different mindset. They have a very different leadership style. Elon Musk might not be, termed as a very great people's manager, but what he is known for is innovative drive. So you become performative when you start taking external validation as a point to prove your leadership style. But your personal conviction should basically, exhibit your leadership style instead.
And bringing this podcast towards the end, let's talk about the EPIC's pillars. I want you to walk us through what EPIC actually stands for and how it is actually helping everybody whilst you'll be briefing down on those pillars, helping the founders or the people who come to you for advice as well. So we can have a whiteboard for you. You can write everything down on that and you can explain it to the audience.
Sure. All right. So first, I think the base pillar of EPIC is that these are 5 foundational truths. I'll explain you how. The very first truth which I ask people is basically to found your existence, right? Now, this existence is nothing but it's more. It's about your strengths, your weakness. It's about your strengths, your weakness, your frustrations, your challenges, your values that you can't compromise on, and why do you exist? I mean, the question that why do you exist is basis your existence. Over here, you focus more on your the key things that are very inherent to your personality. Now, the reason why I call it an inside out is for anything substantial, for a substantial influence for a substantial influence, you have to build from inside out. Now, when you are sure about what your existence is, and now this applies. So when I started EPIC, this was largely trying to create a strategy for a brand, for a business. But again, when I went more deep into it, I realized that this pattern was more versatile and it applies to a lot of areas other than brand, but into your personal reinvention also, your leadership also, and so on and so forth. And the second pillar around this is basically your positioning. Now, once you are sure about your existence, your strengths, your weakness, the default mode you operate on, why do you exist, your perspective, you are in a better direction to create to create a distinctive position in the minds of people who might be your customers or who might be people who are under your leadership team, and so on and so forth. After you have defined yourself for positioning, which is your differentiator, your perspective, what separates you from others, you tend to create an identity around it. Now, this identity is nothing. Now this identity is basis both internal as well as external cues. Now, when I'm talking about internal cues, these are your behaviors, these are your patterns, the way your mindset, and how you are basically consciously creating the identity around your internal factors. While external identity is what you portray outside when you're interacting with people or when your brand is interacting with people. So from a brand sense, it's more of logos, fonts, but from a personal brand, it's more of how you are interacting with the people whom you're communicating with. Now that brings to our next bigger phase is communication and channel. Now this is where what all you have prepared in these 3 pillars start taking effect into the outside world. Now for these communication, for the communication to be effective, it should converse, it should basically integrate your identity, your positioning and your existence together. It should be clear, it should be consistent. Now the reason here is कि जब तक आपका existence, till the time your existence is not clear or your positioning is not well made or your identity is not well made, you will definitely going to communicate in various different ways, in a very dispersed ways. The logic of communication, and every marketing person will advise you, is your communication should be clear, consistent and compelling, and that can only become when you are sure of these things. Last part is community. Your communication, your identity, your position, your existence should have a community which are interlinked. So when I'm saying community from a brand perspective, your intention should be to create community of customers who believe in your business. From a personal brand, you should belong to community which matches your EPIC. And from leadership perspective also, the community that you are creating are future leaders, of how these future leaders can be your authentic leaders and how they can contribute to a system. Now notice one thing very important. These pillars are feeding, one pillar is feeding to the next pillar. So if you miss any one of the pillar, chances are that you will again create confusions for yourself. That is one. Second, this whole framework is your inside out. So your EPIC, I will say EPI and C. This is your inside and this is your outside. Now you realize that I have used dotted lines over here because the influence of inside does not completely vanish after your identity. In fact, it starts expressing itself to the outside world. And that's when I say that inside is connecting to your outside. Now, this is also a lot of common sense. Why? Now I'll tell you one anecdote for that. Suppose somebody from a community, not suppose, it's basically a real life situation. When you're interacting with somebody outside, your customers or people who are, outside your circle, their first mode of interaction with you is communications. We are going outside in, right? So from community, they will interact with you through communication. Now, through this communication and the identity that you are putting into this communication, your behavior, your pattern, the way you speak, they are formally or informally creating a positioning of you. And through this positioning, they are trying to know your existence, right? So I've just flipped it around and it has now become inside out. The way you understand how people perceive you is a very biggest step in order to create your perception. And this is entirely about creating your perception inside out. So that's how EPICC is into this picture. Yeah.
And taking this podcast towards the end, which I hate to do because I love the conversations and the kind of anecdotes that we took from you. Where do you see EPICC in the next 3 to 5 years of your life?
All right. So where do I see EPICC 3 to 5 years is EPICC being a lens. So if you ask me, after maybe 3 years or 5 years, I want this strategic thinking. Because these are 5 pillars are strategic pillars, right? So I want EPICC to be that lens which a business or a leader or a student or a professional or an entrepreneur uses that for the strategic thinking. And it should, and the way it's evolving, because right now it covers your entrepreneur, it helps your students, it helps leaders, it helps business, it helps brands. What I'm seeing here is the discipline is actually also spreading across to a lot more many verticals. So I'm seeing this lens, the EPICC lens, impacting a lot of other areas like maybe your work culture and maybe your own personality characteristics. So yeah, I think I would want it to become a piece of thinking mindset, a piece of lens than some product.
And what legacy do you want to leave behind as Jitin Thapar, founder of EPICC?
I think the legacy is when this EPICC not only EPICC, but when the thinking, the pattern recognition, the first principle rule, when these start actually solving problems of people. Like why I created EPICC is because there was a consistent problem I've seen for those 15 years, and even now, and even during my journey. When EPICC or similar models, which I might evolve into later on, because no framework is rigid. Every framework evolves. My legacy will be to give a structural thinking, which can actually solve a lot of strategic problems for people. See, the problem right now is we are thinking problems from more emotional sense than strategic sense, right? We become more emotional before taking decisions, or we become more emotional. We become more emotional when problems come to us, when we have to reinvent. And my own journey of reinvention has taught me one thing, that once you are able to strategically define your direction and you follow a structure, you then focus more on solutions than on problem itself. So my legacy will be giving world something that is useful not for this generation, but for other generations as well.
That's remarkable. That's a very beautiful imprint to leave behind. And taking this to our final round called Rapid Fire, which is my
Okay.
personal favorite. Starting off, one brand you think has nailed inside out positioning.
Amul.
Really?
Yeah.
Like, how can you say that?
I mean, how beautifully it has evolved, its communication, but its brand personality remains the same.
Wow.
I mean, which brand can do that?
Remarkable. Okay. One phrase you're tired of hearing in the startup world.
Okay, so that phrase is start and then you will know. I mean, you start and then you'll get to know. I mean, I don't find it wrong, but I find it incomplete because if you start and without any direction, the possibilities are that you will stop very soon, or you will run into various different directions. So my complete version is start with a direction, and then you will get to know.
Makes sense. One book or idea outside marketing that shaped Epic.
Okay, so I'm a very big fan of Simon Sinek, and his concept of start with why is so I wouldn't say it inspired Epic. In fact, what start with why did with me is it made me question my purpose because I never had one, and a lot of people don't know their purpose, right? They don't know their why. And the beauty of it is when I was hearing him or was going through his concepts, I realized that I need to find my why. And the Epic is the exact interpretation of actually how you can find your why and how you can build on your why for the external world also. So it's more than an inspiration. It was a game changer. It was an eye opener for me that I need to find my purpose, and now I found it thanks to Epic.
My final question for this podcast. One word to describe your current chapter of life.
Deep.
Deep?
Yeah.
Why?
I think why deep is because the more I'm getting into this science of finding answers or finding more questions, the more deep I am going. And I'm not talking about only strategy. I'm also going deeper into the how psychology works. You will be surprised, but I've become more spiritual now. Okay. I've become more deeply aligned with with spiritual well-being, with astrology also. I've been practicing and studying astrology. So again, why deep is because I think there's much more beneath than what the surface is showing. I mean, we are still living in an iceberg theory. What 80% is still unknown. It's still deep, and we are just uncovering 20%. Wow. And I want to keep on working, and I want to keep on trying to create much more such frameworks, such philosophies that basically uncover the remaining 80% of it. So that's where I was deep.
Well, it was absolute honor hosting you here at the Founders Times.
Thank you so much.
It was really remarkable to have such deep conversations, as you'd say. And thank you so much for taking our time for this. It was absolute honor hosting you.
Thank you so much, Swani. Thank you.